Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I've had a couple of weeks off just recovering my tendonitis and I'm feeling much better, so I thought I'd just dive in and do another retouching video with you because I've had a lot of good feedback. And Hector, hi Hector, asked about doing a part 2 with the Edit Like Pro video. So I've pulled up another image here of Emily from our session a few weeks ago. And I wanted to take you through how I deal with difficult skin. So I've just zoomed in here. So I'm just going to zoom right out here. And just for transparency's sake, I'm just going to crop out again. Undo the crop that I've just done. So I just wanted to show you where I start. So this is not a perfect image by any standards. The crop is a bit off. Even the angle to her from me is a little bit funny. I did another image earlier when I delivered the set, and that was a lot more where I wanted. So this is the original image. Well, not the original, it's the other one I actually chose to show for the video we did, the behind the scenes video. I'll link it here somewhere. And but I didn't want to just edit the same photo. I wanted to show you a different photo. Just more fun for me, to be honest. So anyway, let's get started. So if I can tell straight away that the crop is a bit out, I want to go in and redo the crop. The reason why I do this so early on is because if something is already annoying me, I might as well just fix it straight away, and that way I don't constantly get distracted by it. So I like it about there. I don't mind cropping it in a bit. Here we go. I like that a lot better. So the focus is on her, not so much the background. And the next thing I do is just want to do the basic adjustments. So I always go in and remove a chromatic aberration, and I enable my profile corrections here and just double check here that I'm on the right lens, and that is the right lens in my case. As you can see here, when you enable profile corrections, it does change the image. So it removes a bit of the distortion that the 35mm has, and if you want to remove more of it, you can actually use this distortion slider here to do that. You can actually add a bit more distortion as well. I usually just keep it neutral. I used to play around with it in the past and it just kind of wrecked the images, so just leave it, I guess. And I've already adjusted my white balance. Actually no, sorry, I haven't. I've just kept it as shot and I kind of like it, so I'm just going to leave it. I like it where it is. Her skin is pale by nature, so we're going to go with that. It makes no sense to me to try and make someone look tanned if they're not really. So I kind of just work with what I got in front of me. Hope that makes sense. So the next thing I'm going to do here is just make sure my exposure is right. And I shoot a little bit darker on purpose. So I'm just going to leave that there as well. And I'm not going to adjust anything over here because I do all that in my presets. So, and yes, I'm going to use a preset later on and show you how I do that. So let's go into Photoshop, because now I'm going to start the retouching of the skin, and that's kind of the first thing I do. I always prepare my images with the basic adjustments in Lightroom, and then I go straight into Photoshop and do all my skin retouching in there. I also do things like whitening the teeth and brightening the eyes. I don't know why, I just don't like doing any of the retouching in Lightroom. I don't find it sufficient enough. So yeah, that's just what I do. If you do different, cool, no worries. Let's go into Photoshop, and that can sometimes take a little bit of time. Here we are. We're now open into Photoshop. Sorry that my screen is a bit cut off. I'm doing my best to get the right ratio, but I don't always get it right. Anyway, you're going to be seeing, and I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing anyway. So here, the first thing I do is copy my layer. So Command A, Command C. Sorry, Command V. I always get it wrong. It's all in my wrist and my fingers. I don't actually think about what I'm doing anymore. So that comes with the years of experience, so I just do it. So I created an extra layer here, duplicate the original background layer, and then I create another plain layer on top there. And I just do that down here from the menu. And once I've done that, I use the clone stamp tool on I turn it down as much as possible, about 2 or 3%. I'll go 3 with this one. Yes, that's fine. And then the first thing I do to all my images, doesn't matter what it is, or my portrait I should say, is soften up the texture. Sorry, I got a bit of a crazy mouse today. Alright, and all I want to do, I just look for the really harsh textures and I just soften them up a little bit. And usually you can't actually see much. But again, when you do retouching, it's about doing small steps, little by little, and working your way up to the final result. And my saving grace has always been to do as little as possible and at every step, and just do an extra step if I have to, or add an extra layer to separate what I do. Because if you do too much on one layer and you lose that layer, or you want to change something, you're going to be in trouble. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So that's just softening up the texture. So I'm just going to show you the before and after. And already you can't really see much. You can see a little bit, and that's okay. I've probably, for my taste, I might have gone a little bit too far, but that's okay. I think it's still all right. So I'm just going to keep going. The next thing I do is apply my retouching setup, and I've got my actions all over here set up just to save time. And here's my retouching setup, so I'm just going to click on that. And I got a few help layers over here set up and color fix. I never actually use those, so I just turn them off, and if you want to, you can just delete them, because I kind of do that later on. So, and here I've got a clean folder set up, and on one layer I've got cloning, and on the other one I've got heal. So I usually start on the heal layer, and I just use my spot healing brush, and I go in and just take out anything that is not, that Emily is not born with. So I don't remove moles, and I don't remove anything that makes her kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. So here we go. So say the little speckles of makeup and stuff like that. I never remove big things like this with a spot healing brush. That is just a disaster waiting to happen. I remove things like this using the process with frequency separation and dodge and burn. Much better and less destructive. So I also use the healing brush tool sparingly, because it doesn't always get it right. So tiny areas, things that kind of stick out to you when you zoom out, like these things down here, you could possibly do, they are a little bit big. No, I'm going to leave them because they're too big. So just little things that in the end will just kind of stick out a little bit. All right, so I think I'm about done. I can do a few over here, a little tiny bit. See how it's kind of, there's a bit of fall off here from the lens. So this area here is sharp around her eye, nose and lips, and then just around her, the edge of her face here is starting to fall off. So it's quite blurry, same on the other side. So I can go in there because it's not so obvious that I've done it. But if I'll just for fun's sake, I'll do it. You can't see it now, but if you do that all over the face, you're going to lose texture. And it's just going to look really weird. That's when you end up with really over-processed images that just look strange, and people look like fake people, they look like plastic, and yeah, we don't want to go there. So I'm just gonna, there's a couple of more things here. So this is going to be a long video, there's a lot of work here, and I'm also taking my time. I'm not a fast retoucher, especially not with my tendinitis. So grab a cup of tea, settle in. It's going to be a while. All right, here we go. So next thing I do is, but what I really wanted to do is actually show you another way to clean up skin. It's the complete opposite of what I've just done. Here I'm actually sampling the skin around the area I want to work on, and I just make sure that my brush is on a hard brush so I don't blur the skin more than I want to. And I work on a small area, and I have my flow and opacity up here on my clone stamp tool, guys, at 100%. So this is something that not a lot of people do when they start out, because it's really hard to do and get right. So you have to do it again sparingly. And what you do, I wouldn't do it in this area yet, I'll do it later, because again, it's not even and clean enough for you to use any areas to match into it. So let's find an area to use it on. So I'm probably going to use it up here. See all these in discrepancies with the coloring and the makeup. So what you can do, you can go in and clean it up. So use a small brush, and you just sample the area with the Option key held down, and you click. That's not supposed to be. And see how it sampled the area, and you just put it back there. That's how I explain it. You put it back. There you go. And then just slowly sampling an area that is healthy, if you want to call it that, or an area that you like and you want to keep that texture and color, you go back in and you kind of patch it up. And I guess that's what the clone stamp tool is really good for. But see, I just did a mistake there. See, that's not working. So Control Set, or Command Set, sorry. There we go, back. So you can't use it all over, but you can use it sparingly in smaller areas just to fix up. And this is very time consuming, but it looks amazing. Alright, this is a good example. See how I've messed up down here? That obviously is not going to work, so I need to get rid of that. And all I have to do is get my razor tool out. There we go. And just get rid of it. Done, see? It's so easy when you have your layer set up properly and you don't have to spend another million hours doing it. Alright, so now that we've done our cleaning, I think I'm pretty happy with that for now. I am going to go ahead and create another layer here. So that's Shift, Option, Command, and E, I think it is. Yep, here we go. And up in my action, that is actually called retouching. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is create a frequency separation layer. And here you just want to get where you're working and the radius. What I'm doing, I'm just making sure that I can see the skin texture a little bit, and that could probably blur that a tiny bit more. Oops, that's about 7, looks good. Okay, we'll do that, and then we're going to check. There's a slight color shift there, but I don't care, it's okay. So what I wanted to show you is, because we've got a lot of issues here with her skin and it's going to take forever to dodge and burn and otherwise correct, I have a little cheat way of doing it, which is actually another program called Retoucher, but I'm not going to use it today because I realized that it's a very expensive program, and if you're just starting out, this is not what you need. So instead, I'm going to show you how to do it in the frequency separation layers using something called Gaussian blur that you might have heard of. So it's a really easy technique. All you have to do is select the area you want to work with, and I'm just going to select this area here. You don't want to go too small, but you don't want to go too big either. If you go too small and you have your feathering at around 20, say, because you want the edges of this selection to be blurred. If you go too big, then it's not going to be able to select it. So about 20 works really well for me. I'm going to go ahead up in my filters and choose blur, Gaussian blur. And here is where the fun starts. So I usually zoom in a little bit more and I take it down to the lowest it can go, and then I slowly go up. And I've done this a few times now, so I kind of know where to go. Anything past 10 for me is just too much. So I usually keep it about 6 or 7. And immediately it might not look like it's doing much, but trust me, it is. I'm gonna actually go, I'm gonna do 7 today. There, okay. And then you just deselect that. That's Command D on a Mac. And then I'm going to try and do this area here. It's a little bit tricky, there's a lot going on, but let's give it a go. Filter blur, Gaussian blur. Ooh, that actually did pretty well. Might just see how that, I'll turn it down so you can see it and then just slowly go back up. I mean, does that not make it so much easier, right? Okay, let's not overdo it. Zoom out a little bit. See what it does up there. That kind of takes it away, but then it's also darkened it, so let's do about there. Let's do 8 today there. Okay, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and do the rest of her face. Now you know what to do. Alright, okay, so I've gone ahead and done the Gaussian blur wherever I think I want it. I think that's about right. It's not perfect, but it's just another layer in the retouching process. So I still think there's a bit too much texture here on her cheek, so I'm going to be working on that. But what I'm going to do first, now I'm going to go onto the brush layer now, and I'll just choose my brush, and I'm just going to turn it right down onto about 4, and we're going to start there. Just make sure my brush is on a soft brown brush. There we go. And then I'm just going to brush a little bit and then around this area. What I'm trying to do now is just correct some of this coloring here. See, it's a lot of mismatching going on here. So now I'm going to use my stamp tool, clone stamp tool, and I'm going to pop that down to about 3. So I did this in the beginning, but I'm going to do it now again. But this time I'm going to use a soft brown brush and have my flow on about 2. You can turn this up if you just want to get it done a bit quicker, but I like to take my time. Especially when images are a bit harder than normal, because if you don't take your time, it's going to end up looking plastic really quickly. So I'm happy with that, and then I'm going to even out her skin tone, or her skin color, sorry, and I've got an action for that up here. So it's called Redshift. So you can see here there's some red. She's got a fair bit of red on her chest here, and also she has some along the edge of her hairline, and usually people have it around their eyes and noses as well. So I'm going to go in here with a brush tool and on about 3, and I'm going to click here on, it's just an adjustment layer, and it's in the red channel, and it's got +7 up into the blues. And so when I go in with my brush tool here, got to be on the mask, it will just take care of it. And I'm sorry, I don't know why I've got that on 3. That should actually be 100. Here we go. Sorry about that. I'll blame it on the lack of sleep. Hey, how's that? All right. Okay, that looks good. I can see a tiny shift in color, and that looks great. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I'm going to even out the actual skin colors, and I don't know why, but I can't find my action for it right now. So I'm just going to make my own, and all I do is create a gradient. There we go, there it was. Took me a bit of time. Alright, so all I do is add that, and that's inverted, so I uninvert it, go down, put it into color, and I dial down the opacity to 0, and that's just to the beginning. And then I go back to this, click up here on the panel, and then I click on the shadow I want. So I pick an area where I like the color, right? So you don't want to pick an area that you don't like. I just need that color picker. And usually I use a chest area and a shadow area around the chin or the armpit. And the reason is there's no makeup there, so you get the truest color. And now say you pick this color, and I know that this is going to be very flat. I don't really like that, so you can also go in here and adjust the color if you like. I like a bit more of a golden one, so I can go in here and do that. I can go as dark as this, and that's a bit red, but I'm just going to take it back to the yellow. Okay, I'm going to try that, see how that goes, except for this. It's a big. All right, I like that, so I'm going to try this, and that's when I take the opacity up to about 33. So after I've done that, I'm going to just tidy up some of the inconsistencies on her face. There's not a lot left there, and I'm just going to create a new layer here, and use my clone stamp tool on a hard brush, flow and opacity at 100, and as small as possible. If you've seen my other video, you know that I like to go small and steady instead of crazy and big. And go in very closely, and I don't do all of it because things like this you'd have to use frequency separation to fix, but I can fix that little area. And then this I'm gonna do, sorry, dodge and burn, I mean, not, and you know, there's a million ways to do this. This is just the way I do it. Is it cumbersome? Yes, a little bit, but I hope you've at least picked up a few different techniques that you can use in your workflow. And if it makes your life a little bit easier, well, that's great. That's what we want. That's what we're here for, okay? So I'm going to speed this a little bit up for you. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do frequency dodge and burn. I don't know why I want to say that all the time. Dodge and burn, here we go. And I'm going to leave my black and white helping filter on here, help layer it's called. And I'm gonna use my brush tool again on a soft brush. There we go. And I'm just gonna pull the flow all the way down to about 2, slow and steady. And I'm gonna just zoom out and see where I need to do it. So first I'm gonna do like a global dodge and burn. So that's the bigger areas that are just gonna like tidy up a little bit. Just make sure I'm on the white brush over here and on the black layer. Cancel that. There you go. Now I'm just going to focus on brightening up her eyes a little bit because they're a little bit dark for me. And I'm just going to use an adjustment layer, which is the curves layer, and just invert that. And I'm just going to use the brush tool at 100%, soft brush, and then I'm just going to add some light in her eyes. And make sure it's on brush tool and not clone step tool, please. Here we go. I don't want a lot more than that. Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is just create another layer of all that. So Shift Option Command E, and that just creates a layer with all our new adjustments. And I'm just going to use the burn tool to emphasize her lashes a little bit more. I always do this and just makes the eyes stand out a little bit more. I don't need to do the eyebrows today because they have plenty of intensity to them, so that's great. All right, the next thing I'm going to do, and this is work on the lips a little bit. It can be a little bit tricky as well. So I'm going to use my clone step tool again, 100% hard brush, and I'm just going to go in ever so slightly, and I'm just make sure you just working on the current layer. Okay, one more little step. I'm pretty happy with that. You know, I can use more hours doing this, but just for the sake of teaching you, I'm not going to go all crazy. All right, one more step. I'm gonna copy this layer, Command A, CV, and I'll just select the whole layer and then copy it. I'm going to go into Liquify, and all I'm going to do here is select the little finger tool. I have no idea what that's called, sorry. And I'm just gonna pop this in a little bit, straighten that out. And see how that goes in there. I'm gonna pull that back out a little bit. Here we go. I think that's all right. And over here, I'm gonna pop that back into. Okay, let's go a bit closer. And also what you can do is just another way of cleaning up lip edges, lipstick edges, is just to push them back in. But just again, be careful because you can go a little bit too far with it. But it's just like I don't do all of my editing with it. Like I do steps and then I just finish it off. That's okay. We'll just see, I could do this all day, but let's not. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. That's it. That's all I'm doing. See the difference? It just tidies that up a little bit. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to jump back into Lightroom. All right, here we are. So now we are back in Lightroom and we've got our retouched file here. It's still a little bit too harsh in the texture for my liking, but it's a definite improvement, as you can tell. You can still see her texture. I could probably have done a little bit more dodge and burning here, but you know, I don't want to obliterate it and I don't want to make this video 3 hours long. So this is my retouch, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to apply one of my Archipelago presets. I still don't know how to say right. I mean, look at that. That was the one I used for the other image. And I'm just going to show you which the other one is. It's over here. This is the other one that I did before. And I spent a long time retouching that. As you can see, it's a lot more perfect than this one. So we're going to go ahead and use the same preset because, you know, that kind of makes sense, right? For some reason, this one is a little bit more golden. So we're going to just pull it right down, around about there, I think is good. And it's very, very bright. So we're just going to tone it right down. Reduce the exposure and just take the highlights down a smidgen, because also my screen is bright. And I think I'm there. I'm pretty happy with that. So I've used Archipelago Quest 02. Cannot remember what the name of that is because I didn't write that down, but it's the #2 preset in the Quest subscription series, and I'm pretty sure that you can actually buy that separately. I think they start at about $49, which is great. Or you can become a member, subscribe, and pay about $8 US a month and get a whole new preset for just $8 a month, plus other Photoshop actions and tools. It's a really great value for service. And obviously there is a link in the description if you'd like to get I think it's 20% off in July, so use July 22 code and you'll get 20% off. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more uploads from me, please subscribe and hit the little like bell button, and I will see you next time. Bye.